I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good morning, John Dalton. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful morning?
Yeah, I'm going well, thanks, Angel. Nice to be talking to you.
Yeah, great pleasure to connect with you. What part of the world are you in right now, John?
I'm in Ireland.
Oh, sweet.
I'm in the bottom of Ireland, a little county called Kerry. It's very beautiful down here.
That's wonderful. And which of your talents that you've been operating in is responsible for us connecting at this time?
My talent as an artist, which takes different forms. You know, I paint and I write and I take photographs and I podcast. So yeah, my talent as an artist.
Ooh, tell us about your podcast, please.
I have these long form conversations with artists all over the world, and they are all kind of focused on having skills like the old masters. So they're very interested in classical kind of training, and it's all figurative mostly. I've had a few abstract artists on, but it's mostly this kind of group of artists who are focused on this very specific kind of training.
Is that your style of art as well?
It is. I do like it. Yeah, I do like figurative. I like people. I like seeing pictures of people. I mean, if I was walking through a gallery and there was 4 landscapes and 1 picture of a person, I just would go to the picture of the person. I know my eye would go to that. So yeah, I am kind of more focused on figurative art, but I do abstract art as well. I do lots of different art. Yeah.
Where did your love for art start?
Well, I think it's something that I've just always had. I've just always had that way of looking at things in that kind of artistic viewpoint. And when you look at things from that artistic viewpoint, then there's kind of art everywhere. So, you know, I might see something and think, oh, that'll make a great painting, or I might see something else and say, oh, that'll be a good photograph. Or, you know, I might see like 3 bright red wheelie bins up against a yellow wall, and that might give me the kind of inspiration to make an abstract painting based on those kind of patterns or shapes. Or then, you know, there's kind of conceptual art, like, you know, I didn't do this, but like Jeff Koons, a very famous artist, and he got obsessed about balloon dogs, but he made this giant balloon dog out of metal, and the kind of that gets you into ideas of permanence and transience, and the kind of more with conceptual art, there's always an idea behind it. So there's the visual thing that you see, and then there's the idea behind it, or, you know, say with what I was saying about the podcast, that you could look at that as social practice art, which is art that kind of engages people. So me kind of focusing on this group of people who are really passionate about getting these high level of skill in painting and drawing, like the way Leonardo da Vinci painted, or Michelangelo or Rembrandt, and me kind of curating and collecting all these conversations together into a kind of a group. That's a type of art as well, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't think art is something I don't think you can train to be an artist. I think you can train to get skills, you know, to express your art, you know.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. I love it. I love the artwork that is featured on your website as well. Ooh, it's like an art gallery on your website with your podcast.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? The work that these people do. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Why will you continue? I mean, you started now. You're sharing via the podcast. Why will you continue?
Well, I think, as I say, once you start to, it's almost like you have you have a switch where you switch on this kind of artistic way of looking at things, and once you do that, you can't really turn it off, because once you start to see art everywhere. So yeah, that's the way it is with me. So I think it's not like I can't stop.
Love that. Well, the name of your podcast, where did that come from?
Well, the name of the podcast is John Dalton Gently Does It. I don't know. It just popped into my head. I was thinking of a name for it. Because when I originally started the podcast, it was as an accompaniment to a book that I'd written called May and Noise. And there was, after I'd written it, I was listening to podcasts, and I'd had a podcast for the previous book that I'd written, which was about health and, why we get sick and why we get better. And that had kind of run its course. And I thought, it'd be nice to do a podcast with this. And the first 12 episodes were just expanding on the different themes in that book. And then I didn't do anything for a while, and I was painting away in the studio. I was listening to a lot of interviews, and I thought, it'd be nice to sort of chat to people as well. And I didn't intend for it to focus so much on artists, but it's just the way it kind of went through either availability of artists or the subjects that we talked about it seem to end up. So now it's like pretty much exclusively an art podcast. But the Gently Does It part really, I suppose, came from the atmosphere of that book and the way. I suppose, it turned out it's kind of the way I go about things anyway. And people have said to me, oh, yeah, it's so appropriate. Gently Does It, yeah, because you've got a really nice way of talking with people. And, I was a therapist for a long time. So, spent a lot of time talking with people. So I think I, have an understanding about conversations and the flow of a conversation and giving people space to just talk, So yeah, I think all those things go into the name. So yeah, it's John Dalton Gently Does It.
I love it. So is it like John Dalton is gently doing it, or is it John Dalton ... gently does it?
Well, both, yeah. And
Okay.
whatever way, it's like saying to an artist, what does your painting mean? Usually artists, they won't tell you, because then that's it, it's over. When once somebody goes, oh, it's this thing, then your kind of interaction with the piece of art stops.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's open-ended, you can have that conversation with yourself and with the piece of art forever, really. You're always seeing something new in it.
Love it. Yeah, it's like when I ask, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind? Truly, I believe all of our listeners at that point have some type of interpretation to the memory you shared.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating to
yeah.
me. Yeah, which is absolutely
yeah.
fascinating to me. All right, John. Well,
Yeah.
we've definitely blown through our first two segments. Let's do that, right? Let's switch gears and but before I do that, so if Amazing Audience, if you want to connect with him, you can definitely go to John Dalton, John is pretty simple, JOHNDAL and ton.me. All of his amazing content is there. Everything is there. Is there anywhere else you would like to point them, John?
Well, if you want to visually see the different artworks, that's on my website. That's johndalton.me, not .com, .me, because it's me. That's my name, johndalton.me. So yeah, johndalton.me, and you'll find it.
Yeah, of course, the podcast is live. You could definitely search that. It's how I found it. Just went on iTunes, typed in John Dalton, yeah, and his name popped up. Yeah, for those who want to do that, of course. Well, John, let's switch gears for a moment now, and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with a beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. John, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Well, I grew up in a working class family, and there wasn't very much emphasis on art, but for some reason, an art magazine, I think it was an art magazine, came into the house. And on the cover was a painting by Bridget Riley. Now, I didn't know her name back then. And Bridget Riley is an op artist, they're called. And what they did was they kind of focused on optical illusions. So this painting was made up of all these interlocking black and white lines that created the kind of optical illusion of a wave when you looked at it. So when you looked at it, it was one of those pictures that made my eyes go funny, and it sort of felt like it was moving. So I can just remember looking at that painting on the cover of this magazine. And it really made a big impression on me.
Wow. How old do you think you were?
I would have been about 4 or 5.
All right. Why do you think this memory is so clear, and is it possible to connect the dots to who you are, what you do now?
Well, I think the fact that the magazine was such an unusual and kind of exotic object in our house, that was significant. And then the painting itself was just so striking. because it's so three-dimensional. And as I say, it was kind of messing with my eyes. Now I can look back now and go, well, that was my first glimpse into another world, the world of art and artists. But, as a 4 or 5 year old kid, I was just, mesmerized by this thing,
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Yeah.
I love the idea of what is presented by you as a completed package in that magazine, and I'm fascinated by the fact that now you are actually the individual that is presenting that magazine, if you would, both virtual and physical, from your work and as well as online, the work that you share with others, for so many other people to access as well. That, my friend, is fascinating to me.
Oh, right. Yeah. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. If we fast forwarded to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us by Sparks.
Yeah. And he gently says it.
But it's not a gentle song.
It's not, right?
No. But it's funny, I was thinking about it, and I was trying to remember back when I was 12 and what I was interested in. And back then, there were all these, long-haired men on the telly with, blow-dried hair, and a lot of, wearing satin, and they were all very, fawning to the camera. And Sparks were just the complete opposite. They just had a real flip you attitude. They didn't care, and the music was like just thumping good rock, and they were just so different and quirky. Yeah. They really stood out. Yeah, I really like them.
Yeah, well, you definitely have an eye for what stands out, right?
Well, to me anyway. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, John, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there is a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready, John?
I'm ready.
John, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
No, I think it goes the other way. I think, if someone sees something that I'm doing and they'd like to learn those skills, then they'd have to choose me, and then we're off. I think gaining mastery in a skill, it's not easy. So the motivation to learn really has to come from the person themselves.
Are you married?
I am, yeah.
Do you have children?
I do, yeah. I have one daughter.
Do you believe in God?
Yeah. I think God is doing a great job.
Do you have?
I think it's just the beginning. Yeah, I don't think we've seen God's best work yet.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do. Yeah.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No, I don't watch telly at all. I watch Netflix or YouTube.
Are you looking on that like via the computer or the phone?
No. We have a big. We've got a television, all right, but it's not
smart TV.
No satellite or anything. Yeah, that's it. Smart TV. Yeah.
All right. If you had to share with us the time spent on the phone and or the computer, is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
It'll be less.
All right. John, if you had to share with us your own unique statement, a statement that represents who John Dalton is, what would you say that is?
Be kind. Be kind. Be compassionate to other people. It's just really simple.
Amazing audience. We've just gotten it. I would just throw in, be gentle.
Yeah, be gentle. Be gentle with yourself and other people.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. John, this has been a great pleasure. Thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Very welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.